What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the DFS OGs podcast here on Rotogrinders, presented by our friends over at FanDuel. Make sure you guys are heading over to FanDuel, checking out all the offerings, DFS, sportsbook, casino, even some horse racing over there on FanDuel. So we appreciate their support of the show. Welcome in week 14, talking here. I am your host, Beer, as always, joined by my boys, Notorious and Head Chopper. Noto, let's start with you. You got your work cut out for you. Not only joining us for an hour here talking some week 14, 13 games in the NBA on Wednesday night as we record, injuries left and right, rest left and right. So thank you for carving out some time, my man. Noto, how are you? How was week 13?
Yeah, doing good. Week 13, it was actually a pretty good week. It was profitable. It was close to being a really good week, but my afternoon guys kind of let me down. But yeah, these NBA grind downs, there's something. As soon as I finish a game, KD goes down, Aldridge is ruled out, and then I have to go back and redo the whole thing. So it's a grind for sure, but it's good to have NBA in full swing.
Yes, sir. So hopefully we get you a little distraction here, as we like to do for the people out there. Talk some NFL for an hour, get you away from the NBA. Josh Duck already in the chat. So what's up to him? If you guys want to join the show, that's the way to do it. Get in the chat. We'll be keeping an eye on that. If you got questions, comments, whatever it is, sound off in that chat room. Been very interactive here over the last couple of weeks. So we like that. We appreciate that. Chop, my man. How was week 13? How we doing today?
Week 13 was okay. Had some potential, but didn't quite get there. But nonetheless, we're doing fine here. You know, grinding through the holidays and everything. You got the football. Got to deal with the Costco lights. One of the sets of lights gave out on me outdoors.
Uh-oh.
Now I can't send my picture to the HOA for the award for best Christmas lights. I got to get that fixed. It's a lot of stuff on my mind right here.
Yeah, I see. I mean, Chop, you seem distracted, so maybe that's it. It's the Christmas light. Now, I'm slacking. It's been busy here lately. My lights aren't even up yet. My kids are on me. In fact, my daughter has a volleyball game tonight, her last game of the year, and I plan on going. And she just sent a text like, "Dad, you stay home and do the lights. I don't need you at my game." So that's where I'm at with Christmas lights. But before we get into the NFL, Chop, I want to get your quick thoughts. You're a college football guy on the Final Four. I don't think it was any surprise here, but do you think one of these non-SEC teams has a shot in this one? Michigan has looked great, beating Ohio State, dominating Iowa. You can get them 8-1, 8.5-1 to win this thing. Cincinnati, even longer odds. Are we going to see an Alabama-Georgia rematch for the title, or one of these two have a legitimate shot here? I believe those games are on New Year's Eve this year.
I'd be shocked if either one of those teams could hang tight with the SEC schools. I'd be very surprised. Obviously, I think Cincinnati can get demolished here. Michigan, I'm kind of torn on a little bit. I want to believe that they can sit there and grind out, and run Haskins and Corum and make this a game, but sometimes the SEC is just on a different level than the other conferences, the top of the SEC. So my gut tells me that Alabama is going to also kind of put the stifle on that Michigan run, and that Alabama is going to be too much for them. So I think we're headed for a rematch here, Alabama, Georgia. I think in which case I'd like Georgia in the rematch, but we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, should be some good games, some big spreads on those games. The Heisman coming up as well. So college football, about to get into that bowl season. Always a good time. I know Chop and the boys will have you covered head to toe over at Rotogrinders with all the coverage and the picks. But we are here to talk some NFL. Before we get into that, guys, as you see on the screen, if you're watching on YouTube, first of all, make sure you hit that thumbs up button, subscribe. But you see our DFS OGs contest over on FanDuel. You can find this landing page at FanDuel.com/OG. That's going to get you to where you need to enter the contest. You can also view the leaderboard and see where you're at. Your spot will be highlighted when you pull it up, along with the leaderboard of some of the top performers. And we'll look at that. We'll highlight the top 5 from last week's contest and take an updated look at the season-long leaderboard. We will also update our picks. We're logging each and every one of these betting picks we give you and see if we gained any ground on Chop here this week. So we'll do that later on towards the show. But we are here to break every game down, guys. So let's jump into it here with our opening game for this week. we have the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Tennessee Titans. Titans minus 8.5, 43.5 on the total. So, Chop, we'll stay with you here. Jacksonville coming off another embarrassing loss against the Rams. I think we all saw that one coming. Another tough test here with Tennessee. Titans news, Julio Jones activated off the COVID reserve list. So we'll see if he's able to return to that lineup. But Chop, these running backs for the Titans, very intriguing. We saw them both have pretty big games. Last time we saw this team against New England, Deonta Foreman took the majority of the carries, but Dontrell Hilliard brought that big play ability to the table here. So do you like either of those two guys in a split committee here against Jacksonville? Maybe some of these Titan value receivers with no A.J. Brown or Julio Jones. And then the Jacksonville side, it's tough. I mean, James Robinson fumbles. We see more Carlos Hyde. Trevor Lawrence has been average at best, probably below average. These receivers haven't done much. So pretty much the running back stuff here for me, Chop. And any concern with it being a split committee there with Foreman and Hilliard?
Yeah, there is concern right there. I'll start off on Jacksonville. I think I'm not really all that big on Jacksonville. I'm not going to chase James Robinson. I mean, the guy gets he loses the ball, and all of a sudden he loses like a quarter and a half. Man, I can't play that. So I'll pass. But I think James O'Shaughnessy is interesting just for the price tag and the expanded role now that Dan Arnold's out for the year, and Lawrence will check down to his tight end. So maybe O'Shaughnessy on the Tennessee side with all the injuries. I really need to see what Julio Jones looks like this week, if he's going to practice and if he's going to play. And if he is, I think he's in the pool. And if not, then I can go to Westbrook Akina. The running backs do scare me. Foreman, like, this thing is just designed to run the ball, this offense. Really good at it, no matter who's back there. But we saw what Derrick Henry does. He's great. These guys are not very good, but still, it's designed to run the ball, and they can be effective. Even though Deontay Foreman sometimes looks like he's running with like cement shoes on, man. He's just like, he was already marginal a couple years ago when he was with Houston, and then he hurt his Achilles, and now he's trying to battle back from that. He's just not all that talented right now, but it's designed for big plays in the running game. So I think you keep both these guys in your player pool. I was a lot more interested in Hilliard before the last game when he only got 2 targets. I thought maybe, this is the check down guy. This is the guy. Only 2 targets the last game. I think it was against New England, but they still acquitted themselves very well. So I think you keep them in the pool. The guy I think that I have a lot of love for that I can't play right now is Ryan Tannehill because of the just no wide receivers for him, man. He's not running the ball like he used to, and he doesn't have the target. So all in all, not a sexy game. It's too big of a spread for me to take Tennessee, not knowing the status of Julio. So I'm just going to go ahead and take the under here.
I'm on the under as well. It's not helping me gain any ground on you here. Kind of giving away where we're at on the leaderboard. But I agree with a lot of what you said. It's a big enough spread where I could see Jacksonville being competitive. That being said, I don't want to back them. I could see Tennessee dominating this thing on the ground, which I do prefer Foreman out of these 2 running backs, but there is that same concern level in Jacksonville. Derek, no offense, your team here, but I'm hands off here. As much as I like James Robinson, the player, I just don't see him having the opportunity in this one to make him a DFS priority this week. So 2 unders so far to lead us off, Derek. Your thoughts here, Jacksonville and Tennessee.
Yeah, no offense taken. I mean, I've been trying to talk you off of the Jaguars bandwagon all season. So, yeah, I mean, it's been an ugly year. Lawrence has been a huge disappointment so far. I mean, granted, the coaching staff and all that, I'm not giving up on him just yet. But until he starts playing better, you can't play him. And if you can't play him, it's hard to trust any of the receivers. I think Lawrence has been held under 13 fantasy points in 4 of the last 5 games. You guys mentioned Robinson fumbled. Then we saw Hyde out snap him last week, so I want no part of that. So maybe James O'Shaughnessy, probably more of a DraftKings play for me, where you can punt the tight end and feel a little bit better about it. Titans side, looks like McNichols practiced today. So, I mean, that's going to make a 2-man committee, potentially a 3-man committee. I do think Foreman is kind of going to get the first crack at the RB1 there, but I don't want to mess with it. Maybe a little bit of Nick Westbrook-Akine, but man, this is a pretty ugly game, and because of that, I'm with you guys. Give me the under.
All right, 3 unders on that one. So we'll add to the parlay card early on. I'll update our parlay from last week, but pretty productive. I don't think we hit on all of them, but pretty damn close. Pretty good week across the board. So locking one in here to start us out on the under in this one. Next game, guys. Seattle and Houston. Seattle -7.5 road favorites, 41.5. On the total. So, Derek, we'll stay with you. We saw signs of life finally from the Seattle team, getting that win against division rival San Francisco. Houston continues to be what they are. There's just not much there. Injuries starting to pile up. So, are you trusting what you saw last week, Derek, with this Seattle team? It's mainly the passing game. The running game has been minimal at best without Chris Carson. So, now you add Adrian Peterson in the mix. I think it's easy to avoid that. But do you trust the Seattle passing game? Now, Houston not been terrible against the pass or against quarterbacks here. So that's the question. Russell Wilson, his receivers, yes or no in the spot?
I think it's going to be a no for me just because Pete Carroll's still the coach, and he's still saying that they need to run the ball more, and they're bringing in new running backs every single week. You mentioned Adrian Peterson. I just can't wait. They're going to give him like 30 carries for 50 yards, and they're going to win by a touchdown. So I get it. I mean, the matchup, it's not as good as you might expect. You mentioned it, Beer. The Texans have been pretty good against the pass. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm okay with Lockett in tournaments. You know, Metcalf had his best game since week 8 last week, but it was still 5 catches, 80 yards. He seems to have a limited ceiling right now. And this offense as a whole, yeah, I don't know. One good game against the Niners, I'm not buying into it. On the other side, man, I mean, can't trust the backfield. If Mills is ending up, under center, can't really trust the passing game. We always talk about Brandon Cooks in garbage time, but he really hasn't done much since week 3. So I'm going to be hands off when it comes to the Texans. And for my pick, give me the second straight under.
All right, Chop, let's go to you. I'm gonna be honest here. I don't have a strong lean on this game, so I'm gonna do the chop move and sit back and wait and see what everyone else is doing here because this one's just ugly. The total's ugly. Derek, I'm with you. I'm not trusting this Seattle passing game here. Maybe I take a shot on one of these receivers, but I think there's better quarterback plays this week than Russell Wilson. So mostly hands off on this game. I'd like to just abstain from this one, pull a Derek in general from the betting markets as well. But Chop, what do you got here? Any more optimism on the Seattle passing game this week against Houston?
No more optimism than you guys. I think they've quit this year. I think that's it. I think they've melded in now, man. There's just something's wrong with this team. It's not clicking, and they're not making the playoffs. They know it, and I think they're done, mentally checked out. So you could one off any of the guys. I get it. Like, Wilson or Lockett or Metcalf. Well, you'd probably want to pair Wilson, but I mean, do you really want to spend 2 roster spots on a Seattle passing attack? I don't know. Gerald Everett, maybe you could. The running backs, I'm going to pass on Adrian Peterson, 11 carries for 16 yards. That's not going to cut it, man. That's not going to cut it for DFS. So he's going to have to literally fall in the end zone like 2 or 3 times even to pay off a cheap price tag. No, thank you. Houston, I was all set to pick Seattle here because Davis Mills, and Tyrod was actually, he's not a good DFS quarterback, but at least he's a leader, and he gets the team kind of playing hard. And I was a little bit worried about Davis Mills, but then I started looking it up a little bit. Davis Mills, when he filled in earlier this year, he hit up 2 300-yard games. Got the 300-yard bonus in 2 games against New England and the Rams, 2 tough defenses. So it's there. There's something there. It could happen on any given week, and this is a Seattle team that's given up, and now they got to finish out the year without Jamal Adams at safety. That hurts. So you never know. I'm not going to take them, but we've seen Brandon Cooks and Davis Mills get there before, so I think they're interesting, but like I said, all set to take Seattle on the spread until I saw a big fat 7.5. I was like, no, on the road.
The hook got him.
Hard pass, man. I'm going with the under 2 on this one.
All right, I'm going to go with Houston. I like the point on Davis Mills. I think they can do enough, and this is a traditional letdown spot for this Seattle team coming off a big win against San Francisco. Go to Houston and lay an egg. That fits the MO here for Seattle. So I'll take Houston and the points. Next game, we got Vegas and the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs sitting at -9.5, a 48 on the total. So Chop, we'll stay with you here. Raiders side, Kenyon Drake out with an ankle injury. So maybe some more for Josh Jacobs in that backfield. Darren Waller listed day to day, so maybe he's able to return. Disappointing chalk week there for Foster Moreau. So if there's no Waller, maybe you can go back to Moreau at much lower ownership. Chiefs side, I think all the normal characters are in play. Travis Kelce hasn't had a huge game in a while. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I think, is a very interesting pivot off the passing game here. But Chop, what do you got here? High total. This is certainly one people are going to be looking at here this week, Raiders and Chiefs.
Yeah, it's interesting in the fact that that total is so high, and yet we're talking about a Kansas City offense that hasn't done very much recently. They've been pretty bad, and their defense has actually been carrying them, believe it or not, for several weeks now. Their defense has played a lot better, and then, the Raiders are a team that their offense can look bad at times, and their defense isn't very good either. But yeah, that's a big total for that, and that's a big spread too. So I'm kind of torn on that aspect of it. But anytime these two teams get together, you could see we've seen fireworks before. They played earlier this year. It was kind of a higher scoring game, although it was lopsided. I go back to last year, a couple big shootouts last year in this game. So, I throw some of the stuff out the window, some of the rules in the NFL season out the window with this one. I think is a nice little rivalry where we can get a shootout. So my pick is the over here, and I think the usual suspects. I don't think you go too far off the radar. You have Mahomes, you have Hill, you have Kelce, and I don't really want to play around with anybody else. And on the other side, Derek Carr, as poor as this offense can look at times, he just churns out a lot of 300-yard bonuses for you and gets in the end zone. And in a shootout like this, he could grab you a couple touchdowns. So Hunter Renfrow is a man on fire right now. You can go run Hunter Renfrow and whoever the tight end is going to be. If Waller's back, I think Waller's in play. If he's not back, then I'd take some Foster Moreau for cheap again. So I think I'm going over on this game.
All right, I'm going to go with the Chiefs here. I know they never covered the spread. In fact, both of these teams are pretty terrible against the number this year. But the Raiders kind of on the downslide here. I think they're going to struggle in the spot. I don't like backing the Chiefs with such a high number here, but I could see the public being on Raiders in this one. So give me the Chiefs. I'm a little bit more optimistic about the running game here, Chop, just a way to get different. I think Edwards-Helaire are going to take more of that share. They kind of eased him back in. A good matchup with this Raiders defense. I agree with the Raiders side. Carr, solid. Renfrow, solid. The price is on the rise, but continues to get it done. And whoever that tight end is, even Jacobs, somewhat intriguing without Drake. So a lot of ways you can go in DFS here, Derek.
I would say I'll chime in real quick and say when I said the over, I instantly regretted it, but I'm gonna stick with it. But I instantly regret it though.
Well, what would you flip to? I mean, it's already on the board, but
yeah, I'm gonna stick with the over. But that's the whole thing. There's nothing to really flip to here, but I'll stick with it. But I do regret it.
All right, Derek. Knowing that information, and what's your pick here, and what are you doing to get different in DFS here? Or are you just riding with the crowd on this one?
So I think Derek has been disconnected.
Okay.
I think we're getting we're gonna have to come back to Derek's pick right there. I think he's like hooked up to another device that overrid his. Here he is. Let me get.
I believe he's back.
Hey. All right,
there he is. Well, I couldn't see that he was gone, but it's good to see he's back. So, Derek, we have Chop went the over and said he instantly regretted the pick. So we have to give you that info. And I'm rolling with the Chiefs with this big spread at home. I think they roll here. And obviously DFS, a ton of ways you can go. This one will be circled. Who are you picking out of this one for your lineups this week?
I think the Mahomes double stacks firmly in play. I'm not messing with the backfield. You got CEH and Darrell Williams. They've basically been splitting snaps the last 2 weeks. We kind of think of CEH as the clear RB1 there, but the last 2 weeks that hasn't been the case. So give me Mahomes, Tyreek, Kelce, love those three. Bring it back with Renfrow and hopefully Foster Moreau. I mean, he was the chalk that just killed everyone last week, and everyone said don't play him in tournaments. I did it anyway. Just because he was in such a good spot. But I'll go back to the well there. For my pick, I will gladly take the Chiefs. I think they're the much better team. They're playing better over the last few weeks. And so, yeah, I think they roll in this one.
All right, Derek, let's stick with you. We got Chops Cowboys taking on the Washington football team. Dallas -4, 48 on the total. All these lines courtesy of the FanDuel Sportsbook. So, Derek, good spot here for this Dallas Cowboys offense, especially Dak Prescott. Washington been pretty terrible against quarterbacks. A lot of ways you can stack him up with his receivers here. Zeke and Pollard both been productive in that backfield. So, Dallas, the team that we can load up on here. Washington side, McKissick, questionable. We'll see. Not practicing as of now. Logan Thomas back to IR, so maybe we get some value. Ricky Seals-Jones, McLaurin, and Heineke coming off a disappointing game. They got the win. I thought there'd be more stats from those two in that game against the Raiders. But what are we doing on the Washington side here? And again, Dallas seems to be in a very good spot offensively here against this Washington defense.
Yeah, usual suspects for me when it comes to Dallas. I like CeeDee Lamb quite a bit. Dak's obviously in play. I like his price point quite a bit as well. And then if Pollard ends up being out, maybe I'll take a sprinkle of Zeke. He just hasn't looked the same over the last month or so. Even just like walking off the field, he's got a limp to him. So it's kind of hard to trust the backfield at the moment. But if Pollard's out, I do think maybe we could take a few shots on Zeke. Washington side. Yeah, they'll probably be playing from behind. At least, that's what the spread is telling us. So I don't mind going back to Heineke and McLaurin. And then, depending on McKissick, we can go back to Gibson as well. So a lot of interesting pieces here. And this means a lot for the division. I think they can pull within one of the Cowboys if Washington's able to pull off a win this week. So should be a fun game. It feels like one that's going to be decided by a field goal. So I will take the home underdog in the +4.
And if I'm not mistaken, Chop, Dallas can lock up the division with a win. So correct me if I'm wrong there, but Derek brought up Washington close the gap. I think Dallas can lock this thing up. So, Chop, your team here, how are we handling this matchup against Washington? So many ways that you can go here offensively. And then who is the running back for you if you are going heavy on Dallas on the Washington side?
Well, I would like to start off by saying Terry McLaurin cost me first place in the season long last week with that terrible performance against the Raiders. And now I'm locked out. Now I'm blocked. I can't even get first place now. So best I can do is second place in the season long. So that's terrible. And not Super Bowl. That's just the regular season standings. But, this one right here, yeah, I think Dallas comes in with this means a lot. This is a good chance for them to put some space there. Let me see, 12, and there's 17 games. 3. I don't think that you can lock it up this week. Worst case scenario, if you lost out and they won out, I'd still think they'd be able to get you even after this weekend with a win here. So, but they could really put some distance there. I think they come in with a good game plan and they tear them up through the air here. So all the usual suspects in the air are fine. I think Amari's getting back. He looked really bad last week. Played limited snaps. I wasn't even sure he was going to play, even though he was on the active list. So maybe the COVID really got him. But I think he'll come back this week strong. So I think the Dallas passing game is fully in play here, all of it. Washington, I'm a little bit more leery of. Need to see McKissick out because it obviously helps Gibson quite a bit. I would be more than happy to take Gibson again at a high rate if McKissick is out. I definitely think McLaurin could bounce back here, but not in love with it. So, for all these reasons, I really think Dallas rolls them up. So give me Dallas here.
Yeah, I'm on Dallas here as well. I agree with all the points you made. There's so many ways you can go in DFS, and we'll see what the ownership looks like. But I'm comfortable playing almost any of those guys. The double stacks with Dak, the running backs. Washington, I have the same concerns. Gibson, great if McKissick's out, but Dallas has been so good against running backs. It's a tough matchup. So everything points me to Dallas here. Again, I hate to ride with you, Chop, since I'm trailing you in the standings, but I agree with the pick. I'm going to go Dallas -4. Next game, Baltimore and Cleveland. Browns are now 2.5-point favorites. This one started out with Baltimore as the favorite. Total sitting at 42. So, Chop, I'll go to you here. There's a lot of big names in this game. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, Lamar Jackson on the other side. But this one is kind of ugly, in my opinion. So, again, I always ask you, any more optimism here? Can we go back to Lamar after a couple subpar games? Stacking partners are clear. Andrews Hollywood Brown, Rashad Bateman. Cleveland side dealing with some injuries to that receiving core. David Njoku, we know, will likely miss this game as well. So a lot of big names in this game, Chop. And anyone DFS-wise standing out, or is this one of those cross-it-off type games for us this week?
I wouldn't cross it off altogether, but there's definitely some hesitation here. Lamar, yeah, he hasn't been – outside of a couple games, he really hasn't been that good this year at all, period. I mean, I get it. He's had some big games, a few of them, so he's always going to be in a GPP contention. But he's passing a lot more this year. And when he doesn't run, he's just not as good of a DFS guy that we know. The one guy I do like is Mark Andrews. There's a little solid history there against Cleveland, so give me some Mark Andrews. On the flip side, I think you always keep Chubb and Hunt when they're healthy. You always keep them in the player pool for GPPs because you just never know. A guy like Chubb goes like out of nowhere. He goes for 102 touchdowns in the unlikely spot. You just keep him in there, but certainly not a guy I'm going to have heavy exposure to. But the one guy on Cleveland I'm kind of leaning towards is Jarvis Landry just a little bit here. I think mainly because I think Cleveland wins this game. And they got to do it somehow. He's their best target to get it done. So I'm leaning a little Jarvis Landry, but lock me in. Lock me into Cleveland. This might be my bet of the week. Give me Cleveland.
I'm on Cleveland as well.
I know. Tell me. I don't mind that for the rest of the year.
I mean, I can't switch it around just because you went. That was my pick, so I'm going to stay true to that. But that line movement is telling. The chat sounding off about Jarvis Landry as well. Josh Duck and Jeremy Heisen. Talking about the Marlon Humphrey injury, which is huge for Jarvis Landry. Clearly, we don't talk a lot of matchups, receiver, cornerback, but that clearly makes the Baltimore defense that much worse against wide receivers. So I'm not as enamored with Jarvis Landry. He just never seems to have a very high ceiling. Once in a while, he pops off for a big game. Maybe it's this week, but I'm just, again, Derek, mostly a stay away from me. I want to go back to Lamar, but teams that know each other so well, low total here. Mostly a stay away game for me. So 2 Cleveland bets on the board, Derek. What do you got here?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you guys. I think Cleveland wins this game, but I'm going to actually take the over. I know the division games, they tend to hit the under, especially the second time around, but I think that's baked into the total, only at 42. You guys mentioned the injuries to the Ravens defense. I think that's going to help the Browns offense, and I'm always pretty confident in Lamar's ability to score. So I think I'll take the over in this one. From a DFS perspective, I'm okay going back to Lamar if he's going to be lower owned. You can pair him up with Andrews or Brown, maybe even some Bateman. And then for the Browns, I mean, Chubb, he struggled against Baltimore earlier this year, but I believe he had a huge game against them last year. Kind of a slate-breaking performance. So maybe you can go to him. I agree on the Landry call. The Baltimore secondary, I believe that they're without their top 4 cornerbacks and safeties this year now. So, really good spot for the passing game. And give me the over for my pick.
All right, next game, Atlanta and Carolina. Panthers -2.5 here in this one. Obviously, no Christian McCaffrey, so Chuba Hubbard back as the projected lead back there with Carolina. It sounds like they're going to go back to Cam Newton here, guys, after look good in his first start. Second start, Miami was a disaster, so looks like he'll be under center again, pretty cheap out there. So, Derek, let's stay with you. Let's just talk Cam here for a minute. How do you think this plays out? It's cheap enough where he's going to garner some interest, but are people going to be, trigger shy to pull the trigger on him after that last performance? Thoughts on Chuba Hubbard? And then the Atlanta side, it's tough over there. Cordell Patterson's been great, but we know that price is up there. Pitts continues to disappoint. And are you trusting Russell Gage coming off some big games? So interesting game here, Derek, Atlanta and Carolina.
Yeah, well, I do think people will be, kind of gun shy to play Cam. People are just like a slave to projections, and I just sorted by the point per dollar ratings in our projections at Rotogrinders, and Cam Newton's #1 guy at quarterback. So I do think he'll be fairly popular, probably more so in cash games. He does give you that solid rushing floor. You can't really ask for a better matchup than the Falcons at home. So I have no issue with him. But him being under center kind of just hurts the appeal of the rest of his teammates. And maybe with no McCaffrey, we get even more Cam Newton. So I would probably just roll him out, maybe pair him up with Robbie Moore or Robbie Moore, DJ Moore.
You combine them into one man. Maybe they'll be productive if they were both in one.
Yeah, combine them. Maybe they'll get a good fantasy outing. And this kind of feels like the spot where everybody's been playing McCaffrey the last few weeks, and then now nobody's going to play Hubbard. So maybe I'll get a few shares of him just in case he has a big outing. On the Falcons side, I'm having a tough time with this offense as a whole. I think Patterson's probably your guy, but Mike Davis has kind of looked a little bit better the last couple of weeks. Russell Gage, I think he's had 2 goose eggs in his last 5 starts. So you can chase that upside if you want, but his floor is literally 0, which is never great for a wide receiver. And then Kyle Pitts, we're waiting for it. I'll still play him in tournaments, but I don't have as much faith in him as I did earlier in the year. For my pick, 2 teams that don't really have much to play for, I guess I'll just take the home team.
I'm Carolina here as well. I like the spot a lot. You talk about a bet of the week. Chop laid out Cleveland. Mine's probably Carolina here, even without McCaffrey. I do think we'll see a better Cam Newton. I'm interested to see what the ownership looks like there. And on Chuba Hubbard. 24 carries the last time these 2 teams played each other, but that was without Cam. So how much does that zap away some of his touches and upside? So if he's going to be high owned, I can stay away from him. He's going to be low owned. I'm intrigued like you are, Derek. I'll stay away from the receivers for the most part. I love DJ Moore, the player, but Cam just zaps all that upside there. Atlanta, I'm hands off here. Patterson's too expensive. Gage, like you mentioned, it's up and down, and I'm just done with Kyle Pitts. Kind of jumped off that train. So maybe he gets there, maybe he has a big game, but I'm going to be away from that one. So a little Cam, little Hubbard for me, maybe a little bit of DJ Moore, and give me Carolina. Chop, what do you got here? Falcons and the Panthers.
Yeah, Cam stinks. Hubbard stinks. Kyle Pitts stinks. I mean, they're all pretty bad, man. Matt Ryan stinks. I would say that Cordell Patterson is fine for draft. I usually keep him in my player pool on DraftKings and ditch him on FanDuel. And, with all that being said, yeah, I'll keep Cam Newton and Hubbard and Moore around for GPPs just in case, but not in love with them. I think the most telling thing here is they fired their offensive coordinator, Joe Brady here. Carolina did. I don't understand that. He was really good with any semblance of good quarterback play. This was a really good offense, and they fired him. And they gave him Cam Newton to work with, and they fired him. And they've had Christian McCaffrey's been healthy for about 3 games in the last 2 years, and they fired him. That's terrible. So, man, it's a rough one, man. But with all that being said, I still think they have a little bit more heart than Atlanta right now. So give me Carolina minus the points at home.
Oh, you're tailing me, Chuck.
Hey,
trying to keep me blocked out. I see you.
I got to block you, man. I gotta block you.
I don't think you got to worry about me. I'm pretty far down the standings. We'll look at that here shortly and update you on how we are doing there, along with our FanDuel contest for last week. Let's finish out the early window of games here. We got New Orleans -5 traveling to New York to take on the Jets. Total sitting at 43. So injuries, the story here. We're waiting on Alvin Kamara. I would expect we get more optimistic news after it sounded close on that Thursday night. Maybe they were just giving him that extra 10 days. Mark Ingram placed on the COVID list here as of today. So Kamara maybe rush back. Taysom Hill sounds like he's going to give it a go with that finger injury. So he's kind of in that same vein with Cam Newton, that middle price point with that running upside. Jets side, we got Elijah Moore, questionable now, pops up on the injury report with Corey Davis announced out for the year. So, Chop, another ugly game. It's kind of the theme of this week. All these middling totals here, a lot of injuries we're working through here. Obviously, if Kamara's back, he's a guy we can look to against this awful Jets defense. I'm intrigued with Taysom Hill against that same defense. Jets, I'm out. Unless Elijah Moore is in, I'm intrigued there as a run-it-back option. Other than that, I'm pretty much out on the Jets. So Saints, Jets, Chop, what do you got here?
Yeah, I probably feel a little better about the Saints players than it sounds like you do. I don't mind Taysom. He's got a really, really good price on DraftKings, as does Alvin Kamara if he ends up being back. Deontay Harris is going to have to serve out his suspension, so I think either Traquan or Marquez Callaway can get a little bit more action here, which could make them interesting. I wouldn't even put it past him for little Jordan Humphrey to. I mean, he looks all right too. Maybe there's a connection there. Maybe there's the shower narrative. Maybe with Taysom. I'm not sure. I have to read into it, but and Ty Montgomery taking all his snaps at wide receiver and stuff now, man. That's interesting too because he got heavily targeted in the last game. So I don't mind the Saints' offensive pieces. The Jets are kind of hands off, except for Elijah Moore for me. Elijah's the only one that stands out. And because of that, because I'm leaning so heavy Saints, I gotta take New Orleans here. I think they put the smack down on the Jets.
All right, I'm going to go under in this one. I do think New Orleans is going to control this game. I agree with you there. I do like Taysom Hill and Kamara here, Chop. So we're in lockstep there. But I just know where the Jets are going to get the offense here. So Saints probably the play, but the other play, I'm going to go under, try to get a little bit different on you on this one. Derek, New Orleans play and under play. A lot of injuries to work through here. Thoughts on the Saints and the Jets?
I'm going to go with Chop. I'm going to take the Saints. I think they are a much better equipped team to win football games with Taysom under center. And shout out to our friend Big T. I don't know if you guys saw his tweet. It's just a guy walking into this house, takes his pants off, and he said he doesn't have to worry about researching any quarterbacks because Taysom Hill was announced as a starter. So he's already locked into Taysom. I think he's a great cash game option. I think he's got a good floor. We obviously know the Jets, one of the worst defensive lines in football. So love the spot for Taysom. I'm not worried about the hand injury. I think he's just going to have a ton of success on the ground. And then if Kamara is active, yeah, you can play him for sure. If he's out, then we'll just have to see who ends up, getting the run there in the backfield. But to Chop's point, I mean, we saw a lot of Ty Montgomery back there the other night, and that was pretty frustrating if you played Ingram in showdown, which I did. As for the Jets, I just can't trust anyone on the offense, and it's not like it's a good matchup to begin with. So full fade for me on the Jets.
Yeah, if it's Kamara, the Jets have given up the most fantasy points, the most touchdowns. So if it's not Kamara, I think Taysom eats up a lot of that. So I'm with Big T. I like Taysom a lot this week and much prefer him to Cam Newton in that same price range. Even if he is dealing with a little bit of finger injury, it's the running upside that you get against this Jets team. So all systems go for me on Taysom Hill here as well. So before we get into the afternoon games, as we always do, giving a shout out to our top 5 finishers in our FanDuel DFS OGs contest. Again, if you're not playing this, you're missing out. Just a $7 single entry tournament. A winner each week is going to walk away with $400 in this one off that $7. Not to mention the season-long component as well. Top 10 scores will count. There's 18 weeks to the season. So even if you missed a few, you're a late arrival, still time to make a charge up that leaderboard. But let's take a look at the top 5 this week. 5th place, Living the High Life. Love the name. There's some high scores this week. 189.08. Went with Gardner Minshew this week in this lineup. Justin Jefferson, a big game. Dallas Goedert was the pairing. Sony Michel, Chris Godwin, Cooper Kupp, Gibson, Connor, just solid across the board. No duds in that lineup for Living the High Life. Sea Chiefs, rocking that Kansas City logo, finishes 4th behind Tom Brady. Some of the similar names we just talked about, Gibson, Jefferson, Kupp. Sony Michel had George Kittle in that lineup coming off that big game. 2 touchdowns for him against Seattle. So congrats to Sea Chiefs. GHO2, 3rd place, 194.4. Had that same Gardner Minshew. No pairing partner in this one, but did have George Kittle, Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, some of the same names here as well. 2nd place, Triple X, Achilles Triple X. Quite the name there. $200 off his $7 or their $7 buy-in. Again, we see Gardner Minshew in this lineup. Again, George Kittle, Justin Jefferson. You're seeing a theme here. Michelle Fournette, so a lot of the same names. And our 1st place finisher, rocking the Rotogrinders logo. So it's going to be some additional prizes here for Minneapolis Ace, 199.32. Tom Brady. Chris Godwin was the core of this lineup. Dallas Goedert, Justin Jefferson, Deontay Johnson makes his first appearance here. 2 touchdowns for him as well. Only 7% owned in this tournament. So congrats to Minneapolis Ace. $400 in winnings. Also going to win a year of Rotogrinders Premium combo, absolutely free, just for having that Rotogrinders badge. So guys, this tournament Again, it's only $7. It's a single entry tournament, but having that Rotogrinders badge can pay off big time. If you're not a premium combo subscriber, you're going to win that. It's over $1,000 in added free premium for you. So no reason not to switch your badge over to the RG logo there and represent. If you enjoy what we do here, enjoy everything going on at Rotogrinders, it's an easy change for you. But Chop, let's take a look at the season-long leaderboard. 4794 continues to lead this thing, but some people making some charges here this week. A lot of RG badges rocking here on this leaderboard. What do we got season-long wise?
Yeah, 4794 still in the lead. He's doing well. Had a nice week last week. By the way, that was a really nice first place lineup, man. The Minneapolis Ace put together. It looks really, really juicy. And I would have thought for the life of me going into the afternoons that you weren't going to mess around with Dallas Goedert as the best tight end. But man, George Kittle made a run, and boy, he really smoked it. But those two tight ends are what got you all the money last week. So and they were both pretty low on. So that was it. Yeah. Let me see here. We're looking at Yes Man up there, top 20. Good for him. Oh, look, see the man who finished in second place right there, Achilles XXX, jumps up into 20th place from like nowhere, comes out of nowhere, jumps up into the top 20 with a big finish. So another big finish, he'll be in the top 10 next week. You know what I mean? Like you can jump up quick if you play it right. So we got Notorious 29th. What in the world? He's sneaking up in there, man. Look at that kid right there, man. I think this past week was like my first top 100 finish of the year. I'm not sure, but so I got that going for me. But Urinal Cakes, you bumped him down to 36th place, unfortunately. Looky there, Minneapolis Ace jumps him to. Let me see here. Oh yeah, he had some rough weeks this year. He had some rough weeks in here, and just that on the strength of that one big win, jumps up into 38th place. Like his previous 2 weeks were under 8 or 85 or less points. So, and then yeah, he had a 73. So those are all like throwaway games. And just the one big win jumps you up. So that's what you're fighting for, man. It's still plenty of time to get back in this thing and to make a move. So even if not, still some good prizes. Maybe we'll even figure out a way. We need to figure out another prize too. To win it, if you win it weekly, you get an extra prize on top of everything else. So maybe we'll figure something out. Like maybe I don't know, man. I don't want to say anything prematurely on air, but we'll figure something out.
And if you take down the season-long leaderboard, $5,000 going your way. There's also other prizes, so it's not just first. So making a charge up that board, like you mentioned, Chop, you spotlighted a few people that moved up. Notorious sneaking up there representing the OG, so hopefully he continues his charge. But top 10 finishes this week for 4794 in the weekly contest, and Yisman finished 9th. So I want to give them a little shout out as well. So still anybody's ball game. Again, FanDuel.com/OG. They're talking some RG swag in the chat. Maybe that could be an additional prize for some things, but that free combo, a year of Rotogrinders premium combo, again, over $1,000 in value in that thing just for winning this tournament. So you're walking away with the $400, the combo premium. You're shooting up the leaderboard. Come play with the OG. Support the show. Support the sponsor of the show, FanDuel, who helped us put this tournament together at FanDuel.com/OG. Let's update our betting board here. And Derek, do you want the good news or the bad news here first? So what's your preference here?
I assume I had a good week, but not good enough.
We all had a good week is the good news. I mean, combined we went, let me see. Let me click on week 13 here. We went, simple math here says 20, 25, and 10 overall. The problem is you and I went 8-3, which is the good news. Chop 7-4 didn't allow us to pick up much ground. So all in all, a very solid week. As far as the parlay goes last week, I hit on the under in Baltimore-Pittsburgh. I hit on the Rams -13. Hit on Miami -5. Hit on the Chargers +3. The only one we missed out of our 5-teamer, the under in the Arizona-Chicago game at 45.5. So hopefully you guys parlayed a few of those up, not in 5-teamers, but found some 3-teamers you like. But all in all, a very productive week for all of us. The standings pretty much remain the same. We picked up one game on them, Derek. So Chop sitting at 79. Derek, you are at 75. 4 back, and I am at 70, trailing by 9. So it's getting tight here. We got 5 weeks left. We'll see if Chop can open the door for us and give us Chop. We need that 3 or 4. I'm going to ask for it again. I asked last week, and you didn't give it to us. So let's see that 3 or 4 here this week.
I would prefer that you guys just go ahead and like go undefeated and I still maintain a winning record,
Okay.
like I finish above 500. You make up the ground by being like flawless. So you shouldn't wish bad things on me, Beer. That's not nice.
Whatever it takes, man. I gotta climb this leaderboard, but you must be nicer to me, Chop, wanting us to go undefeated. That would be undefeated for the listeners as well. So I'm definitely game for that. Let's get into the afternoon slate. Let's start with the Giants and the Chargers. LA up to minus 10.5, 44.5 on the total. So Chop, we'll stay with you. Sounds like Jake Fromm going to be the quarterback here for the New York Giants. Daniel Jones announced out. Mike Glennon dealing with an injury. Jake Fromm, of course, University of Georgia, was on one of those Netflix documentaries. I believe it was QB1. So if you're unfamiliar with him, that's Jake Fromm. Chargers dealing with some injuries as well. Austin Eckler, questionable, along with Keenan Allen, placed in the COVID protocol. So we'll see if he's able to get back. But Chop, this feels like a Chargers route here. I'm going to lock in a pick with the Chargers. See if you follow suit here. But Jake Fromm probably better than any of us. We've seen this show before. Was great at Georgia. I don't know that he's an NFL level quarterback. Agree or disagree there? Thoughts on the game, Giants and Chargers?
Yeah, he stinks, man. I'm locking in Chargers too. I don't want any like there's a piece of me that kind of wants to keep Saquon around this week because you just don't know. And he looks like he's getting healthier and he's that kind of a running back, explosive. But Jake Fromm's not good. He's there's no way he's going to be a top level NFL quarterback. So out on that and out on his receivers because of that. I'm with you. I think the Chargers kind of route him here. They should. If they don't, then it's just typical Chargers behavior, which is what they do. So, but, there's a chance Keenan Allen still plays this week. He's in COVID protocol, but since he's vaccinated, it's that thing where if he tests negative a couple times, he can still get back for Sunday, basically. So we'll wait on that and we'll see because he can still come back. And if so, he's fine. Mike Williams is fine. Austin Eckler is really good and all the others. But if he's out, Mike Williams all of a sudden ascends to one of the top plays on the board. He's not there with Keenan Allen in there, but he is definitely at the top with Keenan Allen out. So keep your eyes on that one. As of right now, I'm putting Mike Williams pretty high on my radar because it's going to be tough for Keenan to get back, but he can get back. So lock me in for the Chargers on the spread, and all these offensive players are in good shape here this week.
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Guyton, value play. We got Jeremy asking about Josh Palmer in the chat. He's a minimum price. Is he worth a shot? I think they're all. If Keenan's out, I think both of those guys are very intriguing. To me, that'd be an ownership thing. Who are people looking at? I don't mind either of those guys. Both have that big playability, especially Guyton. So our boy Don Yeezy in the chat's got to give him a shout out as well. Welcome. Derek, let's go to you. I know you're a big proponent of the Chargers. In these spots where we think they're going to roll and they let us down. Chop kind of mentioned it. So I already see the Giants play coming here from Derek. A way to get different. But are you going to back Jake Fromm here and this Giants team, Derek?
I mean, I have some ground to make up on Chop, but I'm not going to do it with the Giants. I'm not trying to lose ground here with Jake Fromm. So give me the Chargers added to the parlay card and pretty much agree with everything you guys said. Eckler and the Chargers D looks like a really good pairing this week. Mike Williams, even if Keenan Allen's active, I think is interesting. And then if Keenan Allen's out, as Chop mentioned, Williams is going to be one of the top plays on the board. Guyton and Palmer are going to be two of the better value plays. And, I mean, with so much interest in the Chargers, we should naturally have interest in bring it back. I just don't know who to play from the Giants. If you guys had to choose one, who would it be?
It would be Saquon. I'm with Chop, but I hesitate. I mean, it almost feels like they're trying to have you step in the trap here. He's cheap. We know he's got the upside. He could catch some passes, but it's really tough. That receiver core dealing with some injuries as well. So Barkley for me, if I have to take somebody, Chop, I think you agree there.
I do, but I would also say that we kind of don't know who he's been practicing with, Jake Fromm, and we don't know what's, like maybe there's a little narrative there with Evan Ingram or something. And he gets somebody like that gets loose. But right now, it's definitely Saquon.
We had some news. I can't find it on those receivers. I'll try to dig it up. But I think a few of those guys not practicing. Surprisingly, it's been the story all season. And Jake from State Farm, well played. Well played there. That's got to be. That's got to be the Chop, or is that Devin? Like who's sounding off there?
I'm logged into the account, so it's me.
All right.
That's pretty good.
So you just put it in chat, Chop? You should have brought it to light here on the show. I mean,
it seemed like something Devin. It seemed like something Devin would say. So I was going to see it.
Totally thought it was Devin.
I was going to blame it on him if it was a bomb.
That's why. Just feeling out, testing the waters here. Looks like you got a winner though. The chat liking that one. So let's get out of this game. Let's move on to our next one. Detroit and Denver. Denver sitting at -8, 42 on the totals. Derek, we'll stay with you. Javonte Williams was awfully impressive last week. We'll see. Melvin Gordon looks like he may return this week. So how are you handling that situation? Other side, Detroit coming off their first win. This is a team that, they have one win, but very good against the spread this season. In fact, 8-4 so far are the Detroit Lions against the number. So I'm going to back them here. They've been competitive in a lot of spots. I don't see any reason they can't be competitive in this one. So give me Detroit +8. We'll see if Swift's able to return. Probably unlikely. So another week of Jamal Williams. Pretty much hands off DFS-wise with Detroit, but I'm going to lock them in +8 here. Derek, your thoughts here? Lions and Broncos.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if Swift's back, I think you can pretty much avoid everything from the Lions. Maybe look at TJ Hawkinson. He had a decent week last week. Amon-Ra St. Brown ended up having the big game as well. But I think we were all on the Lions last week, and that kind of felt good to get that first win. But for me, I think they got the first win. Maybe they now have a letdown. They kind of lose some of that motivation to get that first win. So I'm going to go with Denver. I think they get it done on the ground. Detroit, one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. You mentioned Javonte Williams. Looked great last week. So if Gordon's out, he'll be my favorite running back play on the board. And if Gordon's active, I'll probably stay away from a DFS perspective. But, give me Denver at home. I know it's a big spread, but I think they roll.
Chop, let's just talk Javonte Williams here. Obviously, want to get the rest of your take, but I agree with Derek. If Gordon's out, I love him. I think he'll be very popular. Do you think he did enough to earn a bigger share here that let's say Gordon is in, that will lower the ownership. People are going to have some concerns because we've been dealing with this 50-50 split all season long. Do you think it'll stay that way, or do you think Williams did enough to earn himself more of that role? And then the ownership's lower. We're not playing a chalky Javonte Williams in a great matchup with Detroit. How do you think this plays out if Gordon's if he's back? Obviously, if he's out, it's an easy play. If he's back, how are you handling this situation?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think he's earned enough. I think he's shown enough, and he's they're still fighting. They still, we don't think Denver is very much a playoff team, but they think they are. So they're still fighting for that, and he gives them the best chance, and I think they see that. So I think he earned enough to have a bigger role moving forward, regardless of if Melvin Gordon is healthy or not. So I think so. And because of that, he's definitely in my player big time on my radar this week, regardless of Melvin Gordon's status. So Javonte, he's the guy. He's the guy for Denver for me, because I am just not a Teddy Bridgewater. There's just very, very limited upside there. Like once or twice a year on Bridgewater is all you're going to get any upside. I'm not going to pick this game to do it. He stifles his wide receivers production. I mean, you look at the numbers of Cortland Sutton. When Jerry Jeudy is active and healthy, they're terrible. So can't mess around with any of that stuff. Noah Fant, he's no good. Just Javonte's the only one from that side. On the Detroit side, it's even worse if Swift is out. They really don't have anybody except for maybe Hawkinson. Because I'm not chasing Amon-Ra St. Brown or Josh Reynolds against this defensive secondary. So that's a hard pass. All that leads me to think maybe the under, but I came in here thinking Denver in a rout, because it's only going to go one of two ways, right? Either Detroit, oh man, they're on a roll now. They learned how to win a game, and now they're going to carry this momentum over, and they're going to give Detroit all they can, or give Denver all they can handle, and maybe even pull another upset. Or, they had a big party this week because we finally got a win. We don't have to worry about it. So Denver's going to rout them. One of those two things is going to happen. I think it's Denver's going to rout them, but I want to be fair to Derek. So with great hesitation, I will take the under here.
I thought you were going to jump on Detroit. Like, what do you mean fair to Derek? You're getting on my team. So, and under was the other way I was thinking.
Fair to both you guys here. I'm going to be fair to both you guys. I'm going to give you all a freebie to make up here. Make up ground on freebie.
This guy's being super nice. Comes up with the Jake from State Farm. I mean, this guy's on a roll, Derek. So, Chop Claws giving some early gifts here. All right, Buffalo and Tampa Bay up next. This one, Chop, obviously the premium game. The game everyone's going to be stacking a million different ways. We tend to have one or two of these on the slate this week. It's Kansas City, Vegas, Buffalo, Tampa, -3, 53.5 on this total. So as I always ask, Chop, how do we get different here? Because this is one everyone's going to be going every which way. Maybe you don't get different on this one, but Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs stack, Brady and his receivers. Fournette has been phenomenal here of late. So thoughts here. Who are you prioritizing? Any fades? Hell of a game here. I can't wait to watch this one. Buffalo and Tampa Bay.
I don't know how you get different here because I think everybody's going to be somewhat popular as they should be. I'm absolutely going to go back to Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs here in this game. And Dawson Knox has been one of the more surprising tight ends in the NFL when he's been healthy. So you got that going for you. And then you get a game, and if it ends up being like kind of a shootout mode, then a guy like Sanders or Beasley, one or the other, could be the secondary receiver that gets you there in GPP. So take one of those guys. I think those guys are all in play for Buffalo. Same thing with Tampa Bay. Like Uncle Lenny, man. Lenny just keeps on grinding out touchdowns, receptions. He's the number one back for a high-powered offense. Can't ignore him anymore. So he's squarely in the mix. Tom's going to throw a ball. Rob Gronkowski, man, what a resurgence in Tampa Bay after I thought he was washed in New England those last couple of years. He redid himself, man. Came back healthy, and he's one of the strongest tight ends in the NFL right now. So Gronk is always going to get targeted by Brady. He's always a threat for a couple touchdowns out of the tight end position. Godwin, Evans, big time. That's where I think maybe we can get an edge. Is everybody's going to go to Godwin? Everybody goes to Godwin every week, just about. He's so good. I get it. But Mike Evans has his big weeks too. And I think I'm more on Mike Evans this week than I am Chris Godwin. And I think the ownership is going to be more on Godwin than Evans. So I think that's the one way I'm going to get different is taking Mike Evans instead of Chris Godwin. But with all that being said, 3.5. What is it? 3.5?
Let me look at the official line is 3.
Oh, yep. But that makes it interesting. But I think it's a tight game. I think it's a 3-point game either way. I think it's a toss-up. So I think there's points here. Give me the over in this game.
All right, I'm going to go Tampa. Very good team at home. I know Buffalo is going to be upset and after that embarrassment against New England. And what a crazy game that was. Bill Belichick does it again. But I like Tampa in the spot here. I don't see them overlooking this team. I do think we'll get a shootout, Chop. So the over was my other play here, but I like Tampa to take this one at home. And I agree. Evans was the guy I was going to bring up. Like you mentioned, everybody loves Godwin. Gronk will be that much more popular this week. So Evans, if people are going to be on the passing game, I don't mind going to Fournette. Buffalo definitely been vulnerable against the run, as we saw once again last week. On the Buffalo side, maybe you grab some of those secondary receivers that aren't named Stephon Diggs here. But Derek, your turn here. This one should be fun. Who are you prioritizing? Buffalo and Tampa Bay.
So I haven't taken a look at the Bills' schedule the rest of the way, but if they lose this one, they're 7-6, and they're going to be well behind the Pats in the division, and they're going to be fighting for a wild card spot. So that's certainly interesting. I think they abandon the running game. I think we see a ton of Josh Allen, ton of Stephon Diggs. That's going to be one of my favorite quarterback wide receiver pairings of the week. And don't mind throwing in some Sanders or some Knox, but I think Allen to Diggs makes a lot of sense. We know Tampa Bay, they've gotten a lot better in the passing game over the last couple months, but They still struggle with wide receivers. So love the spot for Diggs. On the other side, I'll go with Evans over Godwin. I'll go with Godwin over Evans. This could be, just a small sample thing, but it kind of seems like Evans struggles when he gets locked up with an elite cornerback. And we know Buffalo, they have Tre'Davious White. So assuming he's active, I haven't checked injuries for the defenses yet. But, I like Godwin in the spot. Had the big game last week, and I think he gets it rolling once again in the slot. Fournette, it's a tough matchup for him, but he's always a guy that's going to be in play, especially if the game shoots out. And then we had a question from the chat. Do you guys prefer Buffalo or Tampa Bay passing game if you can only have one?
Ooh.
Yeah, that's tough. I probably prefer Tampa just because there's so many more ways that you can stack them. Even if you, I like the Evans play. Godwin, you make a great point, Derek. He's got the better matchup. Gronk coming on, so feels like Buffalo. You have to go with Stephon Diggs as part of that stack. Where Tampa, you could leave one of those three off and do it a few different ways. So that reasoning, I'm going to say Tampa, but obviously both in play. Chop.
Yeah, regardless, a lot of points scored. So we don't have to worry about that. And like you said, Tampa is just a much better passing team, period, with so many more weapons that's the one I would lean on.
All right, Derek, thoughts on that? And then I need your official pick here, sir.
I'm going to side with Buffalo in terms of the passing game to target, just because I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball. I don't think they're going to try to run the ball all that much. But yeah, both sides great. I think it's an awesome game to stack. And because I don't think the teams are going to run all that much, I'm going to take the over.
Over. Okay. And Buffalo's upcoming schedule, Derek, I know you brought that up. Carolina next week, another game with New England at New England following that, then home games against Atlanta and the New York Jets. So likely 3 wins there, but a big game looming with New England here. So I hate to call this a must win, but it's a good point. They're 2 games back. On the loss here could really seal the deal there. So you're going to see them definitely motivated. So good point there. All right, last game, San Francisco traveling to Cincinnati. The Niners sitting at -1.5 here. Total at 48.5. This line, this is the one that's moved a lot, and we're dealing with a lot of injuries. Cincinnati, I think that could be a big part of it. Joe Mixon questionable. We got Joe Burrow dealing with a hand injury. We got T. Higgins questionable. So all the big dogs on Cincinnati banged up. Niners side, the running backs are the concern here. Elijah Mitchell in the concussion protocol. Jeff Wilson banged up as well. JaMychal Hasty may be the last man standing and could be a great value play, but too early in the week to tell what that's going to play out. Deebo Samuel, we'll see if he's able to return to this lineup this week. They sound pretty optimistic there. So, Derek, we'll stay with you. This is one of those, early in the week, it's fun to get an early look at things and our initial look at things, but this one, really tough to do much of anything with, not knowing how these injuries are going to play out. So we'll do our best here to navigate this minefield. What do you got, San Francisco and Cincinnati?
Yeah, this one's tough. There's like 20 different if-then statements in this game. So there's not a lot that we can break down in terms of DFS. Just depends on who's active. Whoever ends up starting at running back for San Fran, I think is going to be in a pretty good spot. Cincy's defense, I talked about it last week. They only faced one team in the top half of the league in terms of EPA on offense. So I think last week was number 2, and we saw what the Chargers were able to do offensively. So, yeah, I think the Niners are interesting. I like Kittle. And then depending on Deebo, I'll like him or Ayuk. Ayuk kind of let me down last week, but don't mind going back there. And then kind of the same thing with Cincy. It just depends on who's going to be active. For my pick, man, this is tough. I don't know who's going to play. I don't know all this stuff. So I'm just going to take the under and hope that both teams kind of lean on the run a little bit.
I'm on the under here as well. Again, San Francisco starting running back. You nailed it, Derek. It's as simple as that. If it's Mitchell, he's been getting a ton of work. If it's Wilson, I know he disappointed in that game against Jacksonville, but he'd get a lot of work. And if it is Hasty, I know we had a question from Josh in the chat. I do trust him here in this spot. Other side, again, tough to say, but Pirine could be another value play here if Mixon is unable to go. And if one of those receivers is out, maybe we can finally look at Tyler Boyd again, even a CJ Uzomah, guys like that. So just a lot of questions as we get closer to Sunday here. But looks like it could be a potential weather game, rain, could be kind of chilly there. So keep that one in mind as well. So 2 unders on the board here, Chop. Finish this off, San Francisco, Cincinnati.
Yeah, there's just, like you said, there's just so many question marks here. It's tough to like get a good read on this. Debo being in or out is huge for San Francisco, not just the spread, the DFS aspect. Elijah Mitchell in concussion protocol. If there's one bell cow back for Frisco, that guy would be great, So we got to look and see what all those guys are, if maybe Mitchell is the last man standing because Jeff Wilson is hurt and all this other stuff. So many things to play. I think one consistent is George Kittle. You can always go there. On the other side, I worry about Cincinnati. Joe Burrow banged up last week, had the hand issue. He came back, he played. It was clearly he was in discomfort. Is it something that's going to affect him this week? I don't know. But if it does, then it affects his wide receivers too, and it affects the point spread also. So, and then the Joe Mixon thing is huge because he's so vital, such a vital piece to the offense that P. Ryan just can't take the place of Joe Mixon. So a lot of things going on there. If everybody was healthy from Frisco and from Cincinnati, I would totally be on Cincinnati here, but I can't. I just don't know the health of these guys. So for that reason, I do think that that's a pretty elevated total right there. I'm going to take the under also.
All right, we're adding it to the parlay card. So that will do it for the analysis here for week 14. So let me update on the parlay again. Hit 4 to 5 last week. So I don't suggest going out and making these all parlays, but these bets seem to do pretty well throughout the years when we agree. So first one was under 43.5 on Jacksonville and Tennessee. We're all on Carolina minus 2.5 and the Chargers minus 10.5. And then, of course, this last one under 48.5 in San Francisco, Cincinnati. That one, take with a grain of salt. We have a lot of questions in that one. So we'll add it to the card. But keep an eye on that weather and, of course, the injury report heading into Sunday. So as you see again on the screen, one more shout out here for our FanDuel OGs contest. Make sure you're joining that at FanDuel.com/OG. A $7 buy-in. Go reserve your spot now. Come back and fill that in later. We also have the Rotogrinders single entry series still rolling on. I think that, or is that over now, Chop or Derek? That might be over here, but
I did not see it in the lobby this
okay,
week.
so it might have been last week was it. But again, FanDuel.com/OG. Come play against us. If you're rocking that Rotogrinders badge, you got a shot to win some free Rotogrinders premium. Still a ton of money up for grabs. First place in the season-long leaderboard. Going to walk away with $5,000. So, guys, final thoughts here. Week 14. Chop, we'll go to you. What do you got?
Yeah, week 14. For me, it's a whole new season now. It's a different. I started all over because college football is over, so I get a little bit more time to look at some NFL. So I'm excited about that. And we're in. What are we? We're shooting this on the 8th of December, so I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. But man, for yesterday, for the first time, I looked at the schedule down the road. Wow, Christmas Day, we're going to get 2 football games in addition to the NBA. So this is going to be exciting stuff.
Derek's going to have a tough Christmas then, is what you're saying. I'm with you, man. It's a great time of the year. Christmas is always fun. So we'll talk Christmas as we get closer to that. But heading down the stretch here, a couple more weeks to make some money and charge up these leaderboards in DFS. So Chop season-long league, where are we at? The playoffs next week. I know you can't get that number 1 seed, but it sounds like you're at least locked into a playoff spot at least.
Locked into a playoff spot. This is our last week of regular season. Man, just one of those things. I got beat by a totally inferior team this year for first. The guy in first, he just got lucky with the scheduling and, fell upon all the dud matchups every week. So, but that's another thing I'm looking forward to in season long is that we got the extra week. So week 18 is now the new week 17 that you threw out the window. So now we're going a different playoff. We're doing last man points out the first playoff week. And then the second one also, you low total out of all the playoff teams gets eliminated. And then our head-to-head in week 17 for the title. So I'm excited about our new format.
Nice. Yeah, and Josh brings up a great point in the chat. A lot of the best balls are wrapping up that opening round. So make sure you're checking them all across the industry if you did some best balls. But thank you to Josh, Daniezi, BJ Arroyo chiming in. He's climbing the leaderboard there. Some of the other guys in the chat. Always good talking football with you guys here every Wednesday on the show. Derek, final thoughts for the people week 14. What do we got?
We should probably get out of here, but are you guys' kids too old for the Elf on the Shelf?
No, in fact, my older two are. My youngest is about to be 10, and she not only wanted the one we have, she requested a sister for it. So now we have two of these damn things. We have to move around the house. So I turned that duty over to my oldest daughter. Like, this is your job. I'm out of ideas. All the years of moving this thing around and him creating havoc. Now there's two of them in the house. Like, that's the kids handle that one. So 10 so far is my youngest, but she's still a believer. So I'm kind of hoping this is the last year, not to be a Grinch, but that thing starts to get old real quick.
So my little one's 6. And I'm afraid I'm going to ruin Christmas for him. I mean, I've left this thing just sitting in the same spot for days at a time. And he asks so many questions. He loves to ask questions, and I just don't have all the answers for him. Like, how does the elf do this and this and this? And, man, it's going to get ugly.
I'll give you – first of all, I don't think we did it last year. I have to go ask my wife. But I think last year was the first year we didn't do it, and nobody even missed it, right? So the – one year it just got so tiring of doing it. We just put him somewhere and left a note saying, "Find me if you can. I'm not going to move until you find me." So like we bought ourselves like 3 or 4 days of 3 or 4 days of the kids searching for him, and they couldn't find him because we was like locked away in the closet. But and then we just kind of got my wife. I think she's over now because I just kept going behind her. Everything she would do, I'd put the elves in like weird positions, sexual positions and stuff like that. She got tired of it. So I don't think we even did it last year.
Yeah, that's the first thing my daughter, it gets close to Christmas. Like, when are my elves going to get it? I mean, she is on top of it. So Derek, my answer is always like, it's magic. If they ever had, it's magic.
Yeah, that's my go-to, but man, so why isn't he moving?
Because he really likes that spot. So, he's spent just think of a vacation. You really like the spot, you stay there for a couple days. It's the same. So the beauty of a kid, you can almost tell them anything and they're going to buy it. But we are running a little bit long, so we'll discuss more Elf on the Shelf and Christmas as we get closer. But guys, thank you as always for tuning in. We appreciate each and every one of you. For Chop, for Notorious, I am Beer saying salut. We are the DFS OGs. Thank you for listening. Good luck this week, and we'll talk to you next week.